Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Fantastic pieces of news I got here. And that is from the meeting of Steve Witkoff together with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg. They had a 4-hour meeting. And I have here all the details that transpired after the meeting. And I have the Russians telling us about that, and we have the Ukrainians talking about it, and very bad news for some and very good news for others. All right, let's start with the first article, which comes from Ukrainska Pravda. Ram pam pam, there it is. This is from Friday, but hey, hold it, I have from Saturday as well. Putin and Witkoff discussed, and I'm quoting, aspects of Ukrainian settlement, the Kremlin said. Now, I have a few points about this one. This guy is the United States of America's Middle East, U.S. Middle East envoy. This is the president of Russia. Right? Russia is not located in the Middle East. Ukraine is not located in the Middle East. He is Jewish. Zelensky, the president of the Ukrainian nation, he is also Jewish, together with Michal and Yermak. Why would Mr. Witkoff be the U.S. His title is United States Special Envoy to the Middle East. That's Witkoff's title. Why is he dealing with the Russians and Ukrainians? Is it because Zelensky, and this? Well, just keep that in mind. He's very involved. He's the one who shows up to meet Putin, and he represents us, the Americans, okay? Nevertheless, isn't that too many of these guys around making deals for other countries and other nations, don't you think? What do I mean? I mean people in suits. All right, so this is the first point. I'm going to go chronologically with this topic because Witkoff proposed Russia keep 4 regions. Well, that's good news for the Russians, or normal news. It's not like the United States of America will give the Russians 4 regions of Ukraine. Is they say, well, we can't take it back, so why don't I pretend I act as the person who gives you the gift? Like I'm in charge. You're not in charge. The Russian bear took it and you couldn't stop it. Why? Because you didn't want to talk to them in 2021 about NATO expansion. All right, yeah, that's your fault. All right, let's move on. So this guy right here. Now, what's interesting about this picture? You see what do we have over there? Right there. That looks to me like something that Mr. Witkoff might not like, but move on. And this is, as I said, this is chronological. The Kremlin has briefly commented on the talks held in Russia's St. Petersburg between Steve Witkoff, U.S. President Donald Trump, special envoy to the Middle East, but they don't add it anymore. Oh, here, right? Jesus Christ, right there. And Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Why is this guy talking to Putin? Well, because Putin kicked them out in about 2006. That's why. And I think they know it, and they want just to look in Putin's eye and say, we are at the same level with you. All right. Quote, the leader of the Russian state held a meeting with Steve Witkoff, U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy to the Middle East. The topic of the meeting was aspects of the Ukrainian settlement. You got it? All right. Let's go chronologically to something more. This comes from 11th of April 2025. Putin's latest talk with Trump's envoy, what we know so far. My friends, this is the jewel of this video. Right here, this is the jewel. I'm going to get to this one. Witkoff proposes US give Russia ownership of 4 Ukrainian regions, report. But hey, let's go back chronologically. This was not only that proposal. The US President confidant, he's a confidant, all right? Spent over 4 hours behind closed doors with the Russian leader in St. Petersburg. White House Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has departed Russia in the same secrecy that surrounded his arrival on Friday after spending more than 4 hours talking with Putin behind closed doors in St. Petersburg. All right, let's see. Surprise visit to St. Petersburg. Witkoff's latest trip to Russia came without prior public announcement. What do you mean? We knew that. Air traffic monitors tracked a plane linked to the U.S. envoy flying from Florida It makes sense from Freud, Witkoff. Americans know what I mean. St. Petersburg overnight. He was later spotted alongside Russian President aide Kirill Dmitriev. Right here. Okay, that's Dmitriev. All right, walking out of a hotel in the city center before the talks. Previous meetings between Witkoff and Putin had taken place in Moscow. Kremlin shed some light. The Kremlin confirmed the 4-hour discussions focused on quote-unquote aspects of the settlement of the Ukraine conflict, but declined to provide further details. No worries, we got right here. Kremlin reveals content of Putin's talks with Trump's envoy. Yabba-dabba-doo. All right. White House explains visit. White House President Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, said Witkoff-Stein trip was part of Trump's broader effort to negotiate a ceasefire and eventual peace deal in Ukraine. And you sent a Middle East envoy? No, you sent a guy. Where is Rubio? He's out of the job soon. Why? Mr. Witkoff will take over a Red Rover. And I'm quoting, this is another step in negotiating process, she said. Putin's envoy visit to Washington. Witkoff visit came just days after Russian President aide Kirill Dmitriev, Tsopakopa, traveled to Washington for talks. Remember, this guy was, before he traveled to Washington, he was sanctioned. He was under sanctions. And they lifted the sanctions just like, pack, you're not sanctioned anymore. What did you do? Nothing. The same with the war in Ukraine. Let's talk to Putin. Why? Nothing changed. We talked to Putin for moral reasons because of the world, and you lost. We lost. But unfortunately, other people lost even more than we lost. What did we lost? Pride and what? Other people lost more than that, much more than that. All right, so they have here described Friday discussions with Witkoff as productive. Current state of Russia. Papa, what's next? We're not going to talk about current state. We know it's good that they're going to keep talking. What's next? Peskov said another phone call between Putin and Trump is theoretically possible, of course, following Witkoff's visit, depending on the outcome of negotiations. The two leaders last spoke on March 18th and have both publicly expressed readiness to eventually meet in person when the time is right. Dead or alive. All right, let's go to the here. Let's see what the content was of Putin talks with Trump's envoy. The Russian president has held a marathon meeting with Steve Witkoff. Paparakazaka. What you got over there? Okay, don't like it. But you got a sapphire, how do you call it, cover. The discussions between Russian President Vladimir Putin and as aspects we already got at the third time. The meeting lasted over 4 hours, and the content of the talks has been largely kept under wraps. However, White House press secretary addressed the issue during a brief press briefing earlier in the day when asked by a reporter about the purpose of The purpose was, according to her, to facilitating direct communication with the Kremlin as part of a broader effort, come on baby doll, communicate my fucking mouse, to negotiate a ceasefire and eventual peace agreement in the Ukraine conflict. All right, let's see. During the White House meeting, we don't talk about that one. The meeting reportedly concluded with a decision from Trump, who has repeatedly said he wants to broker a ceasefire. Okay, and I'm talking. And I'm going. There are Russians speaking, Witkoff told Kherson, of the Eastern Territories. There have been referendums, or referenda for you, where the overwhelming majority of the people have indicated. Several Republicans reportedly contacted National Security Advisor to raise concern about Witkoff's stance, criticizing him for echoing Russian rhetoric. I mean, if the Russians tomorrow say today that tomorrow is Sunday, and you say, yeah, tomorrow is Sunday, that means you are echoing the Russia's rhetoric. Imbeciles. So I don't have here more than they just discussed the thing that the settlement of the Ukraine conflict. But let's get the gem of this video, I think. New Voice of Ukraine. Witkoff proposed the US give Russia ownership of 4 Ukrainian regions. This looks like Lost in Space right here. Special envoy suggested to US President Donald Trump supporting Russian ownership of Ukraine's Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhya and Kherson oblast. I will show you where those guys are located. All right, and those are mostly where the Russians already took control. Not all of it, but to control of most of this oblast. Here, this is the map of Ukrainska Pravda. All right, here. And here is, this is Kherson right here in the south. They didn't talk anything about the Crimean Peninsula. So Kherson, you see, it's still, the Russians still need something more, which is over the Dnieper River right here. The Russians are not controlling that yet. Then is Zaporizhzhya. You see Zaporizhzhya? Right there. Zaporizhzhya, again, this is what the Russians will get if we talk about Zaporizhzhia region or Zaporizhzhia Oblast. They already got, I don't know, that's about 2/3 of it. And then you got Donetsk. This is Donetsk here. So they got, again, half, a little bit more than half. And then you got Luhansk, all of it, maybe a little bit of things remaining right here. But this is Luhansk, this is Kharkov, this is Donetsk. So they're talking about the Russians getting the 4, pam, tsam, kam, pam. They're not even discussing this one because they say, well, this is Russian anyway, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Russians are also involved in Kharkov, right there, on 2 fronts, in here and Volchansk, and in, what do you call this, Kupiansk fronts. They also are invading in Sumy, right here. And they say that supposedly they want to come from the north as well. But I'm not sure they're going to do anything in this area from Bryansk. All right, so let's read the article. According to 2 US officials and 5 people familiar with the situation. Who are those guys? Can I bring my 5 people familiar with the situation without naming names? Witkoff delivered the message shortly after meeting with Kirill Dmitriev, who was dispatched to Washington by Russian dictator. And I'm quoting, the fastest way to broker a ceasefire in Ukraine, said Witkoff, was to support a strategy that would give Russia ownership of 4 eastern Ukrainian regions it attempted to annex illegally in 2022, the report reads. Witkoff has expressed similar views publicly before, including in a recent interview with Tucker Carlson, because he's not giving from his own packet. That's why he's so generous. Trump's special representative Kellogg opposed the proposal. There you have meeting with the president, saying Ukraine would never accept such terms. Correct, they will not. And these guys, Witkoff and Kellogg, disagree. General Kellogg, was kicked out of the Russian negotiations. He's not a Zelensky Stein, but he was kicked out. Kellogg is the US envoy to Ukraine, but he's not negotiating. Mr. Witkoff is negotiating or talking and meeting Putin like a girlfriend. Not even Rubio. I told you, who is in charge of our foreign policy? The same people who were under Blinken, with Victoria Nuland and all guys, and under Madeleine Albright and other guys like that. All right, so the report also stated that Witkoff bypassed usual security protocols by inviting Dmitriev to dinner at his private residence before the scheduled meeting at the White House. My friends, let me tell you this. I might sound a little bit scaredy cat, but I keep an eye, an eye on Mr. Dmitriev, big eye. If you look at a hen, a chicken, they look at you with one eye because their eyes are sideways. They look at, like put it in the sun, like that. That's how I'm looking at Dmitriev. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop out of Mr. Dmitriev's hooves. Why? He was educated in America. He went to Harvard and I don't know if it was Yale or Princeton or whatever it was, but that for me is a red flag. No, I know he was checked in his ass as well by Putin and others and his family and everything else, but I'm still waiting. All right, my friends, so these guys want to give part of agree with Russia keeping what it took. Now, how did it take it? They took it militarily, and then they organized referenda. And the referenda to become autonomous, break away from Ukraine, and then other referenda to join Russia. And they did. The people spoke. People say that was done at the, guns barrel, blah, blah. Why? They didn't need to do this. I'm telling you, if you are smart and you organize a referendum You let people vote and you count the vote, and then you come out and you say the outcome of the vote. You don't need to threaten anybody. You give them the right to vote. Why? The people would not communicate all together to say, hey, everybody, the nation, come over here. How many of you, come on, raise your hands, all your, 20 million. How many of you voted for staying with Ukraine and how many going to Russia? And by the show of hands, I think that's about, now the other way. You can't do this. So you're going to have always someone telling you, coming out and telling you, last night I traveled to the moon and back. Got it? That's it. I come and tell you that. How can you verify it? I will tell you that my friends will come and tell you, yes, indeed, Emil traveled to the moon and back yesterday. What are you going to do? And if you want me, I bring you many people from my entourage, my organization, my, administration to confirm I went to the moon. You understand how things are? So when this guy is saying that the Russian-speaking people in all those Donbass and all that were threatened, and in Crimea by the Russians and all that, they knew better. They didn't have to. They could have voted to stay in Ukraine. Who gave the news to the world? The Russians. Got it? The same here. We have someone telling you that we voted through those electronic machines and the results are this. Who are those guys? Can you verify it? Can you meet everybody and find out you didn't vote for that guy? No, you will never know. So, but hey, you have to trust them. Somehow you have to trust them. But they don't trust you. They don't trust you at all. So, the Americans do not do an act of benevolence towards the Russians. They can't do anything else. What, they're going to fight the Russians? They have nuclear weapons in the end. I mean, you're going to go to that sooner or later. So then what? You better play like you are I'm going to give you this, I'm in control, which you're not. And the Russians allow you to pretend you are in control. The Russians are allowed the Americans to save face. That's what they do. But these guys don't get it in Western Europe. They want to be participants, but they are irrelevant. So why should you be participant? If I make a deal with you, I make a deal with a person who really can do something, not with other people that aren't. And then what? Listen to Estonia telling me what they want in Ukraine, or Poland, or Latvia, or Lithuania, or Romania. Why would I listen to you guys? I can fuck you up at heads drop. All right, here it is, my friends. The Americans will give these guys whatever they want because it's not from them. As long as they get something out of Ukraine, and the Americans will get something out of Ukraine, and Europe will get this. You know what this is? Choo-choo, zero. Thank you very much for being with me again today. What they discussed so far, we don't know. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.